This is the Spiritual Bacon Podcast. My name is Casey, and this is episode 1, my NDE. It all started with me being super sick for almost a week. Like food poisoning sick, if you catch my drift. There was something in my body, and my body wanted it out now. The girl I was dating at the time had been encouraging me over and over to go to the ER. But I couldn't drive. I was in no shape to be driving. And my ride, she was headed to work and not exactly thrilled about making a detour. After a little back and forth, I started to question myself. Am I overreacting? Is this anxiety? Am I overthinking? Do I really need to go now, or can I just wait? So I decided to sit down and meditate, just some basic breath work to calm my body, clear my mind, and then I decided, for whatever reason, to ask someone. I didn't really know who. I wasn't into organized religion. That never felt right to me. But I definitely believed in something. God, the universe, whatever's out there. So I asked, do I need to go to the ER right now? And just like that, clear as day, like someone was sitting next to me, I heard, "You're going to die." And yeah, that freaked me out a bit. I took a breath, calmed myself down, and asked again. This time, I saw something. I saw myself dead, lying on the lawn. I didn't know what the hell was happening. I'd never experienced anything like this before. But I wasn't going to roll the dice on the whole dying thing, so off to the ER we went. We didn't go to the main hospital. We went to a small ER across the valley. Thankfully, they weren't busy. They got me back really quick. They ran some tests, started an IV, and I figured, okay, I'm just dehydrated. They'll pump me full of fluids and send me home. But pretty soon, they came back with an antibiotic. They'd found something in my labs. I was in rough shape, barely tracking the conversations. My mom was basically relaying everything to me, and after they started the antibiotic through my IV, my RLS, restless leg syndrome, kicked in hard. If you know, you know. It's involuntary, often intense, and in my case, it was brutal. Now I was squirming, uncomfortable, just wanting to go home and get the IV out. At this point, 2 paramedics walked in with a gurney. At first, I thought they were stopping by to chat with one of the nurses. Nope, it was for me. And I told them I couldn't take an ambulance. My insurance would not cover an ambulance ride or a trip to the ER if it wasn't life-threatening. So I asked if I could drive, if my mom could drive, anything except the ambulance. They weren't having it. So off in the ambulance we went. Whatever they had found in those tests, they wanted me at the main hospital immediately. I had no idea what was going on, just going with it, right? I was not too big on the dying part, so I felt pretty good about being at the main hospital. When I got to the main hospital, a surgeon came in, and thank God I knew him. He had done a hernia repair for me about a year earlier. He's an incredible surgeon, positive, grounded, totally confident, very reassuring, exactly the kind of energy you want in someone who's about to cut you open. He explained that I had a small leak in my intestines. It wasn't too serious, at least not yet, so they decided to put me on antibiotics to see if things would settle down. Now that was day 1 at the hospital. Day 2 was pretty standard. Lots of meds, lots of rest, lots of hoping I'd be sent home soon. Things seemed stable, nothing dramatic. I was starting to get optimistic. But then day 3 came, and everything changed. Early that morning, a nurse came in with a whole different energy. She was moving fast, cleaning up, checking my vitals, prepping things. And she asked, "How are you doing?" And I let her know, "I'm great. I am ready to get home. Let's go. Check me out. Home, please, now." And she just laughed. She knew I was full of shit. Turns out that small leak had turned into a major one. They needed me in surgery, and they needed me there now. In comes the anesthesiologist. Let's call him Grumpy. I don't know if I interrupted his golf game. I don't know if I ruined his weekend, but this guy was not happy. And it's just me and Grumpy flying down these hallways towards the operating room. And for the first time, I felt completely alone. I don't know if I've ever felt that alone. It was almost like ominous. Just a bizarre feeling. They didn't give my family time to get up to the hospital. They just wheeled me in, stripped off what little clothes I had left, moved me onto the operating table, and then Grumpy asked me to count backwards from 100. So I start counting backwards, start doing the little breathing thing he's telling me to do, and I'm still awake, and this dude starts getting irritated with me. And I'm just lying there thinking, I'm doing exactly what you're asking me to. Like, I'm not the one controlling the sleepy sauce, bro. Like, don't get upset at me. I can count backwards from 100. I can breathe. Next thing I know, I was fast asleep and on a rainbow bridge. Like, think like the Bifrost from, like, Thor. I went from dealing with the grumpy guy to, boom, rainbow teleporter, rainbow bridge thing to in surgery? But I wasn't just in surgery, I was watching it. I could see the doctors working on me. I saw it from my own eyes, and I could see it from above, like I was floating near the ceiling or watching it, like one of those classrooms that watch surgery from above. Then the energy shifted. The staff started moving faster. Things got a little tense. Not full-blown panic or anything, but something was going wrong. And then, in an instant, the people in the room changed. The doctors and nurses were gone. In their places were religious figures. Jesus, Buddha, Moses, and a whole bunch of others I didn't recognize. Some were very clear. Others were like silhouettes, like a shadow. And then some were just blurry. And the feeling, oh man, it was the most peaceful, calm, loving, serene energy I've ever felt. It was like all of a sudden everything was okay. Everything was perfect. And even though they had been hurrying, I just knew in that moment that everything was good. I was going to be just fine. And then I blinked, and it went from what the hell was happening to back to the Rainbow Bridge. And after a quick second on the Rainbow Bridge, Boom. I was waking up in the ICU. The only thing I really remember from the ICU was waking up and then having my mom and the nurses trying to ask me questions. The problem was I had breathing tubes in and couldn't talk. And to make it worse, my arms were strapped to the bed, so I couldn't gesture or write either. Turns out I had tried to pull the tubes out myself while I was unconscious, so restraints it was. Eventually, my mom convinced the staff to unstrap one of my arms as long as she held my hand. Now I could finally write something down, or at least point to things. I don't really remember any or all of the questions they were asking me, but the one thing I do remember is filling up the entire sheet of paper writing some version of, "I'll talk if you take the tubes out," over and over and over again in every way I possibly could. Next thing I remember after that is waking up in the normal post-op recovery area. There was someone gently moving me around, changing out all these bandages. That's when I noticed the row of staples. It started a few inches above my belly button, went all the way down to my pelvic region, and then across my pelvic region. Not just that, I had 2 tubes coming out of my stomach through separate incisions, and something else. Wait, what the hell is that? There was a bag attached to the left side of my stomach with a giant plate-sized adhesive sticker. I just remember thinking, what in the actual fuck? Before I could think or panic anything, the nurse started peeling off all the adhesive tape, and let me tell you, if you've never had a colostomy bag or any kind of medical dressing like this, it's held on by layers, like 3 layers of industrial strength adhesive. They do give you adhesive remover wipes, but trust me, it's still pulling my skin and hair, and I had tubes, fresh incisions, a belly full of staples. It was rough. Thankfully, the nurse was super kind. She offered to help shave the area so it wouldn't be as painful next time. But as she was peeling everything back, I was trying to make sense of what I was even looking at. The staples, it's kind of whatever. I've had those before. The tubes, okay, that's new. That's weird, but that's manageable. But when she got that bag off and I saw what was underneath, it was my stoma. A section of my colon literally hanging out the side of my stomach. I passed out on the spot. Boom. Lights out as soon as I saw it. And I've never really been squeamish. I've had stitches, I've had staples, I've had surgeries, I've had things drained, all kinds of stuff. Blood doesn't bother me. But that knocked me out cold. And that turned out to be a huge problem. They wouldn't let me go home until I could demonstrate that I could change the colostomy bag on my own. But every time they started the process, I'd black out. Eventually, once I could stay awake and was able to talk to my mom and get the full story, turns out I had a ruptured colon. It was caused by diverticulitis, and on top of that, I had a serious infection around my heart. If I hadn't already been in the ER when it ruptured, I would have died. Having this happen at home and calling an ambulance, the ambulance would not have been fast enough. They made this very clear. What was supposed to be a quick 4-hour surgery turned into a 9 or 10 hour marathon to save my life. It's hard to put into words how grateful I am for that surgical team. I mean, even grumpy, like I can't express it enough. They saved my life. I'm at the hospital, the surgical team, the medical staff, the nurses. Like, wow, I really don't know how to put it into words how grateful I am. It's thank you. I thank you. But here's the thing, because of my long-term pain management, goodness, and past injuries, I had built up quite the tolerance to opioids, to the painkillers. And the hospital staff wasn't thrilled about giving me more narcotics, understandably so. Opiates and colons, they don't play well together. It can lead to more complications with the constipation, all kinds of post-op issues. So here I was, recovering from a major surgery, staples everywhere, 2 tubes, a colostomy bag, and the pain meds weren't cutting it. The nurses would come in and they'd ask me to rate my pain, and I wasn't going to lie to them. I was honest. I'd tell them like a 7 or an 8. They report that to the doctors. The doctors would come in, promise changes, but those changes weren't helping. I tried every alternative they offered, even the ones I knew wouldn't work, just to prove a point. I'd been through something similar with all the work-related injuries. I'd tried everything the insurance would cover. And the kicker? I'd finally quit opioids almost a year earlier. Clean, done. But right before this surgery, right before all this stuff went sideways, I'd gone back and got on them for just a month, just to get through one final commitment. And now I was stuck, half dead, in serious pain, and back on the meds that weren't working. Thankfully, I had one ace up my sleeve. About a year earlier, when I quit opioids, I had started using high-dose edibles to help manage the pain. And it worked, really worked. So, yeah, we snuck some in. And they definitely, they don't fix it, but it helped take the edge off anyways. Shout out to Wholesome Co., best dispensary in Utah. They deliver to 99% of Utah. Seriously, come on. If you're going somewhere else, what are you doing? Anyways, some of the staff were cool about it. Others, not so much. One of the nurses took my edibles away and tried to change my restless leg syndrome meds. She wanted to give me something that I knew wouldn't work. I told her it wouldn't work, and we changed it anyways, and yeah. She didn't listen. I had a miserable weekend, and at that point, I knew it was time to go home. Luckily, I had more edibles and my actual RLS meds waiting at home. But first, I had to stay conscious through a full colostomy bag change. Shit took me almost 2 weeks, 13 days to be exact. 13 days to stop passing out, manage the pain, and convince them I was ready. They really pushed for me to transfer to a lower acuity recovering hospital. But I was not about that. I said no for 3-4 days till they finally agreed to discharge me. I was finally headed home. I was going to have a home care nurse twice a week and a physical therapist twice a week for the first couple weeks. But hey, I'll take that over being stuck in the hospital. Now I'll finally be able to figure out what some of this stuff I've had going on is. What's this all about? Hearing things, seeing things. Well, I'll dig into all that and more in the next episode.